Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Booktube Chicks Book Club live show for June. This month, we read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins, the prequel to the Hunger Games series. And tonight, I am here with Kathleen from For the Love of Books and Desiree from Libri Labra. And we are going to be talking about this book and probably the Hunger Games as well, since they are related. So before we get started, the way this live show works is that we are going to be doing about 10 minutes of just general thoughts on the book, which are non-spoilers, and then we will let you guys know when when we are going into spoilers. We're going to be spoiling this book and the Hunger Games. So, who would like to start with their initial thoughts first?
I'll start.
Can you start with a summary first, since that's what we agreed on?
Oh yeah, sorry.
Chloe forgot.
Well, I don't know how to summarize this book.
I mean, really, it's just about you get to see Snow. You get to see Snow as like a teenager and see some of the things that he goes through before the Hunger Games as we know it.
Okay, Desiree sucks at this. This is set during the 10th Hunger Games. Okay, this is set during the 10th Hunger Games. The original Hunger Games was, I believe, the first one was the 74th annual Hunger Games. This is before the Hunger Games was very much almost where the tribute were more celebrities. So this is very beginning, and this is the first year where they're using mentors, and Cornelius, whatever his name is, which is President Snow, he's a mentor for this first one. So we're following him during the 10th Hunger Games. Okay, now that's where you can go.
So like I don't think I even ever made up my mind in regards to whether I wanted to read this book or not. Like I know there was controversy when it was announced, and I had thought about it a little bit, but I don't think I thought about it enough to be like, yes, I definitely want to read it, or no, I definitely don't want to read it. And then we just kind of agreed on reading it for the book club. So I was kind of middle of the road then. And I think, I don't know, my initial thoughts overall, I just kind of feel like I don't think it was needed. And that's like the most basic, my most basic feelings about it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, when I first found out about the book, obviously I wanted to read it. When it was revealed that it was going to be about President Snow, I still wanted to read it. I understand a lot of people were angry that it wasn't based on someone else. They felt like they were maybe afraid that she was going to romanticize President Snow. But I'm like, just because at the time, when I found out, I was like, just because she's writing on President Snow doesn't mean she's not going to write based on Haymitch. Or like, I just saw a lot of tweets and a lot of discussion on this, and people were so angry. And I'm like, her writing this does not mean she's not going to write that. You know what I mean? So I didn't understand. I got the disappointment over why this book was on President Snow, but there were some people who took it a little too far. But regardless, I was also skeptical on the fact that this book was based on President Snow, and I didn't want it to be, because I didn't want her to romanticize President Snow by giving him like this tragic origin story to make us feel bad for him, and like, oh, you know, he had this really bad childhood, that's why he became the villain in the Hunger Games. I didn't really want that, and that's not what we got. And
no,
I agree
it's not.
And I to be honest, I agree with Desiree. This book didn't need to exist. I almost wish this was a book that was romanticizing him as a villain, because I would have preferred that over what we got, which is essentially a pointless book. This book, I don't even understand what happened in the ending. I will just say that. I did not dislike this book. I actually liked the book. It was about a 3-star rating. But only for like the first half of the book. I enjoyed it, but then the ending kind of just, I don't understand to this point like what happened in the ending. So maybe you guys later will clarify for me, but it's just, it was just really disappointing because I was expecting more. And this is Suzanne Collins, who brought us the Hunger Games, who created this world, and it was really, really good. And I wish, to be honest, I get that this is like an origin story. I honestly wish the book focused more on the Hunger Games itself. The Hunger Games, I felt like they were such a small part of what the book, of like this 500-page book. And if it just, I don't know. It's just, like Desiree said, it didn't need to happen.
Kat, you have the exact same thoughts that I do, like almost perfectly exact. I would be totally cool if this book didn't exist. I would be so cool with it. But I reread the Hunger Games books like this past month before I even picked up this one, and it doesn't even feel like a Hunger Games book to me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if it's because it's the 10th Hunger Games versus the 74th Hunger Games, but it doesn't feel like a Hunger Games book. I liked the beginning of it because I was really excited to get into it, but then the second half, I was like, what? Like, starting at like the middle of part 2 all the way through the end of the book, I'm like, what's happening? I don't understand. The ending also confused me. I don't know if it was because I was listening to the audio, but I'm so confused on what happened. I'll tell you more of what I wanted in the spoilers because it has to do with the original series. But yeah. I wanted something completely different from this book, and it's like we were talking before. Like, I don't know if I should keep it at a 3. It was just okay for me, which is generally like a 3 rating. I don't know if it's more of like a 2.5. I don't know. It's weird. I'd be cool if this book didn't exist.
Okay. Do we want to move into spoilers then? Never mind. What did you rate it, Chloe?
I rated it a 3, but now I'm second guessing myself.
Yeah, like I'm jumping. Like it's like I'll leave it for 3 for now, but it is like fluctuating for me because there were moments that I really, really enjoyed the book. Like when we were in the Hunger Games and the anticipation of, whether she was going to survive or not, blah, blah, blah. It was exciting for me. Like I felt like, for a moment, I felt like I was reading a Hunger Games book and I wanted to cheer for the tributes. But then the rest of the book was just weird. Like you said, it didn't feel like a Hunger Games book for a lot of the time.
I definitely do want to move into spoilers now because I have so many thoughts like that of what I thought was going to happen. But I don't know. So I don't know if you guys remember, but at the end of Mockingjay, or like maybe like the middle to the end of Mockingjay, they're filming all the like the promo things exposing Snow, and I think it was Finnick mostly saying like exposing Snow and his rise to power and everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I thought this book was going to be. That's what I wanted from this book, was we hear about that exposure in the final book, and I wanted to read it in this one, but that didn't happen. I mean, we got the beginning, I guess, of the quote unquote rise to power, but it's not what I wanted, and I'm disappointed.
Yeah. One thing that kind of you kept saying, like I almost felt uncomfortable with this book, to be honest. The romance between Snow and, I'm sorry, what is her name again?
Something Gray.
Lucy,
right, Lucy. It just felt odd. Like I'm sure she had Stockholm syndrome, because he was the only one who was being nice to her, and she developed feelings for him through that way. But for him, it just felt odd. Like at one point I was reading, and then he started calling her my girl, and I was like, is he saying that in a romantic way, or because she's his tribute and technically, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden they're throwing I love yous to each other. And I'm just like, where did this happen? Like, there was no chemistry between the two. Like, I would have enjoyed this book a lot more if the romance was believable. And I just feel like it wasn't. And in a way, it made the ending make more sense because he abandoned her. Well, I don't even know what happened at the end. She just disappeared. And, and I'm like, I don't know. But it just like the romance was just way too weird for me. It's honestly one of the most cringy romances I've read in a while because it just felt odd. It didn't there was no reason like for her from her point of view. I would understand because he was the one, like I said, being treating her like a human being. But from his point of view, I don't get it. Like, I don't understand where the romance came from. And I would have been okay if there was no romance because it just made the book odd to me.
And I don't even understand her because, like, I haven't really understood her since her name got called at the reaping and she started, like, singing. I was so confused. I was like, why is she singing? Why is nobody, like, reacting to this? And, Kat, I don't know if you read the audio or not, or I don't know if either of you listened to the audio, but
I did.
it's weird because, well, then, yeah, so he's just, like, saying the words, which makes it even harder to, like, visualize it, which I know isn't it's not really anybody's fault. It's just like,
but
I don't know.
A lot of the narrators don't sing when there's like when I listen to It's Not the Hate You Give, it's the other book where she raps. Like the narrator doesn't rap. He just reads it off really fast. So I mean, I get it because they're not singers. So I was just like, I wasn't particularly bothered by it, but I don't think I ever read a book where they're singing and the narrator actually sung.
You should listen to the Mockingjay audiobook then.
Really?
I listened
to that one.
Yes.
Oh,
yes, but it's really
would be
not
awesome then. But yeah,
it's not good. No. So you know how? Okay, so you know the Hanging Tree song in the movie, how they sing it. The tune that the audiobook narrator did is completely different, which I know why. It's like years before the movie came out, but I'm so used to the movie version. But it's such like a happy song, but it's so weird, and I didn't like it.
Well, yeah, like,
but all
there
the
were 2 songs in this book that was in the movies, and I just kept hearing the song in my head. I just kind of tuned out the narrator. So
I did like seeing the origin of those songs, though.
Yeah, the hanging tree made a lot more sense. There was another, I don't remember what the other song was, that was in the movies, and it made sense to me now. Yeah. I also go ahead.
That was when I texted you and was like, I made a connection.
So I just didn't get the point. Like I don't feel like he was ever likable, like ever. Like I feel like he was an asshole through the whole book, and like you're in his head, and it seemed like he almost always had ulterior motives, and
he did. I feel like
maybe.
I feel like this is one thing about where pride before the fall, and he never let his pride fall. So essentially things worked out for him because in the end he was brought back to the capital. But yeah, I agree. Like Suzanne Collins said that he was he was charming towards people, like in the beginning when they're announcing the tributes and everything. He the way he interacted with everyone, he was very charming. Like he would ask people how they were. He would ask about their personal life. I don't know if you remember this, but he was very, very charming towards the people around him because he wanted them to see him as Snow, someone who is political, someone who is very high class. So in a way, because we were reading from his perspective, it didn't seem charming to us. But I can guarantee if we were to read this book from someone else's perspective and get their perspective on how he was acting, he would seem charming.
I kind of liked him more in the beginning when we were starting to learn like about his situation, but I felt like he progressed more into asshole territory as the book continued.
Really, to me, I felt like To me, I felt like he was the characters of The Betrothed, where he just kind of stayed flat. There was no character development. If you felt like he became more of an asshole towards the end, I didn't feel like that. I felt like he was the same from the beginning. His priority from the very beginning was to bring the Snow name back on top. And he wanted to hide the fact that he and his family were suffering because of money. And I agree that in a way, a lot of his actions does seem like an asshole type, but for example, what happened to Sejanus, the fact that he tattled on Sejanus, it was something that he would have done from the beginning, and just because we saw it from at the end, it didn't mean anything. So I disagree with you there. I feel like he was the same person throughout the whole book. And the fact at the end that his love for Lucy, that he was able to just abandon her and not think twice about it, it kind of upset me, but it also made
dime. Like literally, what was he? Unless I was misunderstanding, but it sounded like he was ready to run away with her.
He was ready.
Was he not?
Okay, he was ready to run away because he thought his life was over. And then they came to that little rendezvous point, I don't remember, and all the guns were there, and he realized the murder weapon was there. So he could easily wipe away his DNA from the murder weapon. And he realized there was a point in the book that he talked about it. He's like, he felt relief because he realized he didn't have to run away.
He realized that he could get away with the murder, but like that behavior is not normal. Like even if that still happened and he was like, oh, maybe I could salvage my life. The fact that, because then he was like, oh, maybe I'll have to kill Lucy too. Like that shit was not normal, because if he loved her, other things would have been going through his mind. Well, there would have been more of
hold on. And then after he discovered the weapons, he noticed that Lucy was gone for a while, and that's what set him on his path. He became paranoid because she wouldn't come back. And I feel like that's what set him on the path. Okay, I gotta go back. Lucy thinks that I'm a terrible person because this happened, because she realized
a terrible person.
because he realized that that Sejanus was the third person that he killed. So I feel like the point where he found the weapons, he was like, okay, so I'm not in trouble. And then Lucy not coming back, and he started on his kind of like mental spiral down, where he realized, okay, she knows what I did, and so I either gotta kill her or I gotta go back. He never found her, so he went back.
I just didn't buy it. Like that was so unbelievable to me. Like here I am, like, I mean, first of all, the romance again wasn't like super believable, but I did feel like, okay, they're going to run away together. Maybe he can leave his mistakes in the past. But the way he flipped on her on a dime was just like I wanted to throw the book at that point.
I agree. And honestly, this is where I was going to say something. I felt like I understood his motives. Like in the end, I understand like his mentality, but I felt like the pacing was off at the end, and that's why it felt unnatural. I feel like if she, I don't know how to say it. I felt like
I think it would have made more sense for the plan to keep going and for her to actually figure it out and for it to be out in the open. Because then there would have been like more realistic conflict there.
I don't know. The whole ending just felt really odd to me because, again, I don't understand what happened. I don't know what happened to Lucy. It was never explained where she went, what happened to her. And I also felt like the pacing of the ending was really, really off. It just threw me for a loop. And it just didn't contribute to my confusion. So I don't really know what happened. Yeah,
I thought that maybe my kind of like rough theory for this book was that him and Lucy were gonna form a relationship, which they did, but then I thought somewhere along the lines, like what was gonna turn him, like, I guess, evil, for lack of a better term, was that something was gonna happen to Lucy, not the way that it did, but like more of like, I don't know, maybe she gets killed by somebody else, maybe somebody district. I don't know. I didn't really have like a rough plan for this theory, but I don't know. It ended up being really weird and going completely like different than I wanted.
Okay, so halfway through the book, after they win, and then he gets sent to the district 12, what I thought was going to happen were two things. Now that you mention it, one, she was going to die at the hands of a district, and that's going to set him on hating the district even more, and that's what set him on his path to becoming President Snow we know today. Second thing I thought might have happened is that he would have become more obsessed with Lucy, and he would have gotten his pardon in some way and gone back to the capital, and he would have dragged Lucy with him and made her his wife, like against her will. That's what I thought was going to happen in some way capacity. I didn't, honestly, I would have preferred either of those to what we got. We don't even know what happened at the end of this.
Yes.
So
I was going to look up the Hunger Games wiki and look up Lucy Greybeard to see if like maybe I just missed it or something. But now that you're saying that we don't know what happened, like I don't think we're ever gonna know.
No, it literally, like at the end, Snow literally says that they have no idea what happened to her, and that apparently District 12 also says that she disappeared. So even District 12 doesn't know what happened to her.
Let's see. Here's at the very bottom of the wiki. There's like behind the scenes, and it says that Suzanne Collins spoke about Lucy in an interview regarding the book, and in the Hunger Games book, there's made reference to a 4th District 12 victor, but Katniss didn't know anything about the person. So it says her story is not well known in Panem in the future, but she lives on through music.
Yeah.
And then her other legacy is that she introduced the entertainment factor to the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they deleted that Hunger Games.
Which is probably why it's not well known.
Right.
Yeah.
But I guess what they mean by she introduced it to the Hunger Games, the game maker. Now they're going to make every other Hunger Games an entertainment point of view, even if the audience never saw the 10th Hunger Games. I don't know.
It's indirectly, Katniss indirectly mentions that she's the first victor from District 12.
But nobody knows. How does she know?
I think it's
the Hunger Games, the 10th, and even if it wasn't, remember District 12 only had that one TV that didn't exactly work, so nobody watched the 10th Hunger Games, so nobody in District 12 will have any way of knowing.
I think it was...
Yeah, but she came back, because if not, she would have been dead.
Who came back?
Lucy came back to her, to the district.
That's true, but she disappeared, so we don't know. I don't know.
Maybe that's why people don't know too much about her. They know that she won, but nobody knows too much about her, or her Hunger Games, which would make there's 4 District 12 winners: Katniss, Peeta, Haymitch, and then Lucy was the first one.
Yeah,
this book was it was not what I wanted.
I had expectations. Like usually when a book that is beloved, like a book that comes from a series that is beloved and a lot of people are trashing it, I don't tend to believe people, because people can be harsh when it comes to a book that is coming from a series that they already love. I feel like people are expecting more, and so they tend to be extra harsh on the other books. But this one, I agree with a lot of the negative reviews.
I didn't want to read reviews. I didn't want to read reviews going into it, and somebody had commented on I think it was like my June TBR, saying that people hadn't been liking this book, and I'm like, I know, I'm just trying to avoid reviews until I can read it and form my own opinions, but they were right.
Well, I mean,
I
but
don't
even
hate
so,
the book, but
people still gave it 4 and 5 stars.
Yeah,
I saw people giving it 4 and 5 stars.
I'm looking to see what the average rating of it was because I don't actually know.
It's like 3.89. It was 3.9 last night, and then this morning when I checked, it was 3.89.
It's still 3.89. It has a majority of four stars, then 5 stars, and then 3 stars. I don't know. Just although I can't remember who mentioned it, which one of you mentioned it, but a book about Haymitch sounds really good. I would read a book about Haymitch.
Yeah, that's what people like when the Hunger Games, like a prequel was announced. A lot of people were expecting to be a Haymitch story. So that's why a lot of people were upset that this ended up being a President Snow story.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I'm all for a Haymitch story. I'm like, but like a lot of the anger, just because you're getting a President Snow story doesn't mean potentially Suzanne Collins won't write, it would just take her a long time.
Yeah, another like 10 years.
One thing I will say about this book is that it made me want to read the Hunger Games again. Like, I wasn't planning on reading it, but reading it made me want to reread the series again.
It felt really good to be back in the Hunger Games world when I was rereading them. And I found myself like more drawn to picking them up instead of doing other things. And that's one of the reasons why I was so excited to get into this book. Like, I read them all like back to back. I think I read one book in between this and Mockingjay, but I was so excited and then just disappointed.
I just felt like another thing. I felt so bad for Sejanus, not only because he died and he died.
He's like the only good character in the whole book.
No, I actually liked, is it Tigress? The cousin. Snow's cousin. I liked her.
I mean, I guess she was fine, but she didn't serve any real purpose. At least Sejanus was like at the forefront.
No, but I liked her. But Sejanus, like, I felt bad not only because he died, but at the end, I don't know if you guys remember this part, his parents took Snow under their wing.
Yeah.
It was disgusting.
And I was like, no. I was like, I get Ma. But the dad to do that?
No, like he was Snow was so duplicitous and like
he was very manipulative. Like he
didn't really have any redeeming qualities. And who wants to read like you said in the beginning, like it, obviously none of us wanted to have Snow romanticized. However,
I would have preferred
that. Like it would have been a more interesting read because you want to connect with the main character when you're reading a book about them. You don't want to just think that you're reading a book about a jerk the whole time. Like there's nothing when you can connect your humanity to a villain, right? That's what causes the internal dilemma. That's what brings on the emotions. That's what has you questioning your perspective. And, romanticizing him wasn't really ideal. The introspection involved in something like that would have just been so much more interesting than what we got.
Yeah, I mean,
you kind of reminded me. I want to know what happened between this book and Mockingjay that caused Tigress to get to where she was. I want to know what happened with Tigress. Why does she does she hate Snow for all the other reasons that everybody else does? Or like,
wait, remind me what happened to Tigress in Mockingjay?
She helps Katniss and them. She brings them into her shop.
Oh, is that? I was thinking. I was like, is this her in the original trilogy? I was like, oh, that's awesome. Okay, I was thinking. I was like, is this her? But I'm not sure. I don't remember the person's name.
Yeah, so it's like, what does she? Now that we know that she's his cousin, like, what does she hate him for all the reasons that everybody else does, or like, why? Where is the? No, it's just that they were brought under wing. Like, I feel like this needs, instead of the epilogue being what it was, make that epilogue the last chapter, and then make the epilogue be like, here's what happened. Like, where are they now? Stuff like that. I don't know. Or what happened between this point and that point.
I kind of wish I had given myself more time to read this, because I find all the character names very interesting, and she has clearly named them after very specific characters in other dramas, and she named some of the characters after like soldiers and generals in the Roman Empire, and just like there's a lot at play there, and I think the character names have a lot to do with it, and I would love to see the picture of how that overlaps with what she wrote.
See, I didn't look too deeply into the names like that. The whole time I was wondering, why do all these characters have such weird names?
But like
literally like
all of them. I you know, I looked up probably like 6 or 7 of them, and they were all something. They were all something. Like Lysistrata is a play about men at war and how women decide to stop having sex with them to end the war. So that's what that play was about, and that was one of the characters. Sejanus was a Roman soldier. Coriolanus, even his dad's name, all of them, like they're all named by stuff having to do with like the Roman Empire and other Greek tragedies and stuff.
Yeah, the only connection I made in all the Hunger Games.
Hold on, didn't Suzanne Collins base the Hunger Games off of the Roman Empire with the gladiators? With them killing each other? I remember reading something about it, that she kind of like got her idea off of the gladiators killing themselves. And
that makes tons of sense.
Yeah, so
literally the only name connection I've made throughout this whole series is that his name is Pita, haha, pita bread, he's a baker. That's the only thing I got out of all of it.
I never made that connection, but okay.
Pita bread.
I don't even like pita bread.
That's the only connection I got with any of the names. And Katniss, it's a plant. Primrose, it's a plant.
Yeah.
That's that. And okay, this is really random, but they mentioned the Katniss plant in this book.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Lucy says that it'll grow into potatoes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? Is that what a potato is?
Hold on.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's like, can we fact check that? Does Katniss Plant turn into potatoes?
Maybe. Hold on, I'm trying to.
I'm sure
there's some truth to it.
Yeah. Because potatoes are grown in the ground, so I'm assuming it's a plant that starts it off. Maybe it's a different kind of, because there's thousands of kinds of potatoes, guys. So I'm sure it's a kind of potato.
I'm just intrigued now. Like Katniss, potato.
Okay, so this says Katniss Plant actually goes by many names such as arrowhead, duck potato, swan potato, tool potato, and wapato.
Wapato.
And it says the tubers of Katniss are edible and have been used by Native Americans for generations as a food source. They are eaten much like potatoes.
Potatoes.
I don't know. I feel like there has to be some. I mean, I guess I want to find meaning in it, right? Because I feel like the story was so pointless, but maybe there's like hidden meaning in it somewhere. Whether it's a retelling of something that happened in the Roman Empire, or just I want it to be more interesting than I found it to be the first time around.
Yeah, this book was just a waste of my time. I still love the original series, but this is a waste.
I mean, yes, but not as big as waste of my time as The Betrothed was.
Oh my god!
Sorry, Chloe, but
shots fired.
But I don't know. I tried to watch the movies before we did this, and I actually got like halfway through the Hunger Games, and then I had to stop watching it, and I just never picked him back up again. So, did I hear correctly? This is supposed to be a movie too.
Oh God,
I think so.
I heard
really?
that this is.
I think so. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
I mean, maybe this would be like one of those instances where the movie's better than the book.
Let's see.
Yeah, but yeah.
A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes.
Let's see. The movie adaptation of the upcoming Hunger Games prequel book is a go at Lionsgate, and the creative team from the original films, including the director, is all returning for the new film.
Oh my god.
I think it was it was announced to be a film even before this book was released, I think.
That doesn't surprise me.
It's a good series, just not a good prequel.
I don't know.
Do we have anything else related to this book that we would like to talk about? We basically just trashed the whole thing.
I mean, I guess we could talk a little bit about the creation of the Hunger Games, right? As we know it, because it was slightly different back then. The whole fact of it being entertainment wasn't necessary. Oh, we lost Kat.
Wait, yeah, she just disappeared. I'll text her.
So what I thought was really fascinating was how something bottom, Dean something bottom. What was his name?
I can't remember now.
But it was towards the end. It might have been in the epilogue where he was saying that he went to school with Coriolanus's dad.
Yes, High Bottom.
So High Bottom, and how he said that in like a drunken stupor he created the Hunger Games because he was like ranting and frustrated about something, and that Coriolanus's dad took it from him and turned it in. Mm-hmm. Which is fucking shitty.
Well, now we know where he gets it from.
I mean, well, yeah, I know that was pretty clear, but like just the fact that was never supposed to see the light of day, like that was just something that he wrote because he was going through something, and the fact that was pretty much just kind of stolen, and then it turned into this big thing where they're killing children. I don't know.
I feel like we should also talk about Dr. Gall, because she was such a. I guess she was like. Yeah, I guess she was like the villain for a little bit, and then she kind of like disappeared when Snow became a peacekeeper. I don't know. Thoughts? I thought she was creepy.
I mean, she was creepy, but she was manipulating him the whole way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she very clearly wanted to put certain messages into his head, so she was putting him in very specific situations to get him to develop those ideas, which is fucked up.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she, like, I don't know, it makes sense that she was, like, the head game maker, and she's probably, like, since Snow becomes her, like, apprentice, I guess, then she's, basically everything that was, like, sick and manipulative from the Hunger Games, we can probably trace back to her.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the whole thing is
I also like, yeah. I mean, I also like that we kind of got the, I guess, origins of the Mockingjays, too. And how how the Mockingjay or the Jabberjay became such a relevant thing towards the end, which makes a lot more sense on why there's such a dislike to it in the original series.
I don't think that was, I mean, it was in there, obviously, but listening to it at the speed I was listening to it, I don't think that was made super clear to me. I don't think it was super clear to me. So what was the... I mean,
I think it was
that it was a capital fuck up.
Well, besides that, you notice that the at both of the hangings in the book, that's when the Jabberjays start repeating the final words. And I think when Sejanus was hung or hanged, I don't know what the proper thing for that is when it really like Snow really started the dislike, because that was his friend, whether he had fault at it or not.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And it kept repeating his last word. Yeah. I think that's where he really started to have more of a dislike. Kat, you're looking skeptical.
Yeah, well, because at that point, like, I would
he
think that's like
used one of those
reliving
creatures
trauma.
to kill his friend.
I know, but then the other part is I'm not like, because
If that one is what led to him hate, then good for him. I hope he has nightmares about it. But he literally used one of those creatures to kill his friend. So,
and that's the other part of the confusion that I'm having problems with, is that because he had that like regret of sending it for a small portion of the book, and I'm like, did you actually regret it? Was that like a front? Like,
well, I don't know if you remember, but when he initially did it, he didn't think that the kid was gonna die. He thought the kid would either get what's it called? He would get punished but not killed.
Mm-hmm.
He thought that maybe he would get disowned by his dad. He would go to the Capitol. He was hoping that his dad would pull strings and that he would call Sejanus back to the Capitol and just live a quiet life. I don't think it ever occurred to him, not completely anyway, or he was denying it, that it might happen that Sejanus was actually gonna be executed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but like throughout the whole thing, I feel like the majority of the book, he was calling Sejanus his acquaintance, and then all of a sudden, like after he died, he was like, "Because I'm his best friend," and I was like, "Dude, when the fuck did you become his best friend? Like, when did that happen?"
Explain to me the part where he called him his best friend, because the one time I remember him doing that, he was doing it not because he actually meant those words.
He was talking about going back. I think it was while he was explaining that Sejanus's parents had kind of adopted him. But even him just saying that just felt like...
I don't think in his heart he means it. I think he's just keeping up appearances, because he does. I remember when he was talking to Dean Highbottom, whatever his name is, and he says that that Sejanus is his best friend and his brother, whatever, but he was just keeping up face.
Maybe.
Yeah, when he was talking to that commander.
I don't think he ever considers Sejanus anything to him.
Yeah. I don't think he did either. But he was the one that was taking all his stuff. Like, he was taking... I didn't get the whole thing with the diploma. The hidden diploma or whatever, or why he gave the diploma back to Highbottom.
Because he didn't want it to come out that a traitor had graduated from the academy. So he didn't want people to know. So he gave the diploma back to Dean Highbottom so that he could destroy the diploma, and there would be no evidence that a traitor ever graduated from the academy.
Oh, I didn't know that was like a sincere gesture.
Well, he was doing it just to show off to Dean Highbottom. To show that that Dean Highbottom underestimated him and that he was still loyal to the Capitol.
Kind of like stepping back towards when we were talking about like how District 12 couldn't, like, they didn't know, or they couldn't watch the Hunger Games and stuff like that. Besides the fact that like Lucy came back so people know that she won, I guess, there's also at the end Dr. Gall says that she deleted all the footage, like everything regarding the Hunger Games that year is gone, except for her like master one that she has kept away.
Right.
So I think that's the other like air of like mystery to that year's Hunger Games and for the District 12 victor.
Why?
Maybe that's another reason that people... Well, I'm just saying maybe that's like another reason why people don't know a lot about it, especially in the main series, because there's no more footage of it.
Well, yeah, Yeah, she wanted to erase the 10th Hunger Games. Nobody watched it anyway, so except for the people at District 12, no one knows who won or what exactly happened.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the people that actually watched the Hunger Games, they probably bribed them to keep it quiet.
Mm-hmm. Or they're all dead now.
I don't know how long ago this comment was made, but Das Book says, now I'm hungry for pita bread.
Because we were talking about the pita.
The pita names.
I don't know. I feel like I've been reading too many books lately that make me angry. I've been angry at books. Like,
I mean, I feel like every time I talk to you, you say you're reading something different.
I'm not angry.
Like every other day.
What'd you say, Kat?
I'm not angry at this book. I'm disappointed. It's kind of like
disappointed.
It's kind of like it when I was reading, like when I was finishing this book last night. I kept thinking of like the cursed child. To me, this book will not exist anymore. I shall be happy with the original 3, and that's it. This book is just going to sit on my shelf and collect dust and never be opened again because I don't want to feel the disappointment all over again.
I've been trying to stay away from what other people have been saying about it, but I think after this, I'm going to go watch a couple of live shows.
I watched the beginning of, I watched the very beginning of Marinez's live show with this book. Everybody rated it either a 2 or lower.
Really?
Yeah, that's how much they dislike that book. I think one person gave it like a 2.5, but besides that, they were all like low.
And Marina's just posted today her, like, I think it's either a review or like reading experience with it. I'm trying to find it real quick.
It was like a 1 star.
She gave it a 1.5. She and Sam gave it 1.5.
She posted today, reading and reviewing The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes.
Oh, look. So Coriolanus is a tragedy by William Shakespeare, believed to have been written in 1605 and 1608. The play is based on the life of the legendary Roman leader Caius Marcius Coriolanus, and is one of the 2 tragedies written by Shakespeare. So there's famine in the, I don't know. I feel like this is like a retelling.
I'm sure I don't think it's a retelling. It probably was inspired by a story.
Yeah.
Very loosely inspired. I wouldn't say it's a retelling of anything, because if it was, I'm sure Suzanne Collins would have said it.
Yeah, I think it's more of just not a retelling, inspiration.
Yeah.
Yes.
I do, like, one thing that I do hope is that even though this book was a disappointment, I do hope that Suzanne Collins writes more in the stories. Like with Haymitch, when he became a tribute and won, I would love to read his story.
Yeah. I hope she doesn't just like up and disappear again.
Did she provide any reasoning for why she picked this story? I mean, I know sometimes inspiration is weird and it comes at the oddest times, and
I'm sure she did.
Stay?
I'm sure she did, but I don't know it. Like, I didn't really, like, when it was first announced that it was President Snow, I didn't really look much into it.
Mm-hmm.
I might have to look into that because I'm curious.
Well, I don't have anything else related to this book unless you guys do.
No, I think
my only thing is that I hope she writes more stories. I would love to actually have a story of the war and then what led in the very first Hunger Games.
I mean, she's created such a rich world. that you could probably write plenty of things that didn't have to be this one. But like, I mean, I guess it depends what her goal is and where her inspiration is. If she wants to milk it like HP, then she could totally do that if she wanted to.
I would love
maybe,
to also...
I want to know the... Good.
I was going to say that maybe the plan is to write a whole bunch more stories, and maybe this was the weakest one. So she released it first, just so that, you know, because everybody was like just waiting for her to release something.
Yeah. I also want a story based on like what happened to District 13 during those years, because obviously in the original trilogy we found out they were up and running, and I want to know like what happened during those years that they were that people believed they were destroyed or whatever, or leveled. I want to know like how they rebuilt, like what happened exactly.
I want to know the like story behind Effie, and also what happened to her during Mockingjay, because she's not in Mockingjay until the very end.
Yeah,
I want to know, and I also want the Hamish story.
I think I'm gonna. Well, I mean, it's an audiobook, so John's probably going to read it anyway. But I'm curious as to what John's thoughts will be, because he does not read super critically. So I'm wondering if he'll like really like it or what his thoughts will be. So I will let you guys know what happens after he reads it. Because he might be like, yeah, it's a 4. Yeah, it's a 5. I don't know. I guess we'll see.
I mean, this book, like when I was messaging you guys initially, like I was like, oh, I like this book. It was originally like I was ready to give this book a 4, and then the ending happened, and it just like it went downhill. Like once part 3 started, it went downhill.
Yes.
When you were telling us, and I thought you were going to have a completely different opinion than me, and then when you were giving your original thoughts today, I was like, you're literally giving reading my brain. Those are the exact same thoughts that I'm having.
Yeah, because I liked like the whole like part 1 and part 2, where it was before the Hunger Games, and then what happened after. Part 1 and part 2, I actually really liked like the whole that he made a spectacle out of Lucy. Like it showed the origins of what is now the Hunger Games. You know, like it's by turning the tributes into celebrities, and that's essentially what Lucy Gray became. She became a celebrity amongst the tributes, like amongst the people. People wanted to see her sing, and that's, I feel like Cornelius saw that, and he was trying to capitalize on that. He was trying to make sure to use that to his advantage and make sure that she wins. And I really, really liked seeing that and reading that, kind of seeing like the whole beginning of how the tributes became celebrities, and how seeing people become desensitized to the fact that, you know, eventually these people are going to die, and like you're cheering for them now, you're making them into a celebrity, but they're going to die. And I enjoy that whole part. And then the part 3 started with him getting sent to District 12, and I was like, I don't understand what's happening. And then I started my theory of maybe I think, you know, Lucy Gray is gonna die, and that's what sets him on his path of evil villain.
I thought too, and I was waiting for that, and then it didn't happen, and I was like, "What the hell?"
And then the ending, and they were running away, and then she disappeared, and he went back, and I was like, "What is happening? I don't understand what is happening." And then she just disappeared off the face of the planet, and I was just like so confused. So I rated it a 3.
I feel like I'm leaning closer to a 2.
Yeah.
But Chloe, you had said something at one point in our chat. You were like, you had an idea or a theory, but you didn't share because
let me go to the chat and see.
I mean, you didn't post it in there because Kat was like, "No, tell Desiree privately," and then I asked you if there were spoilers, and you said yes. So you didn't tell me either.
I can't remember. It was probably regarding like I thought she was gonna win, and something and like there was gonna be a romance, and then something was gonna turn to me. It was probably about that. Something was gonna turn. I can't find it because the chat's so long.
what's funny, I don't know if it was the way the narrator read Lucy's part or what, but I kind of felt like I was waiting for her to betray him like the whole book. Like, for some reason, there was something about the way she communicated and the way she spoke to him. Maybe it was just how fake the whole romance felt. But I was like, something's going to happen here. You know, like at least you're in his head. So you knew that there was some interest on his part. And like, he kind of wanted to be with her. And he was following her around and always asking about her. But she was always just so happy and bubbly. And I don't know. I was just kind of waiting for her to betray him. And then I was like, well, maybe she betrays him and that's why he becomes the way he becomes. Like,
I honestly wished I had read this book from her perspective, because I thought what I wanted to know is like, it's like Chloe said at the beginning, why did she start singing? Why did she allow herself to become almost like an animal in a zoo? I mean, they were literally in a zoo. Like, why did she allow herself to become that? Like, I would have totally been that guy Marcus and just been like brooding in the corner, like, just kill me, you know, whatever. I'm not gonna give you a show. Basically, I would have totally been that person. Like, don't come near me. Don't bring cameras. Like, you brought me here to die. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna put on a show for you. And I just want to know her reasoning. Like, why did she decide to go along with the show?
Yeah, and now that you mention it, I completely forgot about the zoo part. Like, that part of the book feels like a completely different book than the ending.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of goes to show like how different before the tributes were treated. Like, before they were treated as animals, like less than human beings. Like, they weren't even fed until Lucy Gray said something to the reporter guy, and it got broadcasted, and they started feeding the tributes. And to what they have now, like when Katniss became a tribute, they have like their own floors, like literally the train that takes them from their district to the capital, like it's filled with food. They get all this like amazing stuff, and it just it's so different now.
There was a quote in there, and I don't remember exactly what it was about, but I think it was about like one of the tributes dying. And somebody was like, you know, oh, he was so sad, you know, like someone had killed, and I think he was like a dog. And then she was like, no, like a human being. I don't know if you remember that part, but that was it was just weird that his inclination was to say, oh, they're sad because, you know, it's like it was like somebody killed a dog, and she was like, no, somebody killed a human being.
Oh, I think I don't remember that particular quote, but I feel like I remember the scene. But yeah,
which I thought was interesting, just how like the Capitol doesn't give a fuck, doesn't care about the people, and just sees them as less than.
Yeah,
that rich 1%.
But yeah. It was interesting to read from. Like, we get a lot. Like, this book maybe it shouldn't have happened. I feel like maybe it should have been rewritten, like written in a better way. Like, I don't know, but I like, there are certain things that I did like about it, like the whole beginning of the Hunger Games, seeing how different it is. I also liked seeing like the whole Snow's obsession with roses, like where that came from. That was interesting. Yeah. I did like Tigress. I didn't make the connection that she was the lady from Mockingjay, but that's interesting. Yeah.
I mean, their little repeatable soundbite was interesting. About what? Snow always lands on top.
Oh yeah. I like that little quote. The little mono. But yeah, like, in a way, like, this book did make a lot of connections with the original book, but yeah, it definitely shouldn't have happened, or it should have happened in a different way. Like, at this point, I wouldn't mind it if it was a romanticized Snow in this book.
I would have felt more about it. Whether it was like good or bad, I would have had like, I don't know, emotions, as opposed to just feeling duped.
Yeah, exactly. And this book is 500 pages. I'm like, dude, if you're going to give us this, at least make it shorter.
Yeah. It's way too long.
Okay.
Excuse me.
what are we reading next month?
Yeah, so let's go ahead and do final thoughts. And
I thought those were final thoughts.
are they? I don't
Yeah.
know.
Chloe
usually
final
announces
thoughts. I don't
it.
know.
Chloe usually
Final
announces
thoughts are
it,
that this was rough. Final thoughts are that this was rough. It was rough, and I gave it 3 stars. Here's my final thoughts.
Yeah.
My final
for
thoughts
anybody,
are it was pointless, and I give it 2 stars.
yeah, it's not horrible, but it's a book that you don't need to read. It didn't need to exist. Some things about it are interesting, but otherwise,
yeah,
it's not necessary. But I don't want to discourage Suzanne Collins from writing more. Please write more.
So in the month of July, we are going to be reading Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. This was voted on by you guys in our poll on Twitter. So if you don't follow us on Twitter, make sure you go follow us at Booktube Chicks so you can participate in any polls that we do and also get up-to-date information on any live shows that we do. And then our live show is scheduled. I didn't realize that this was going to be, it was scheduled for the last day of Reading Rush, but it's scheduled for July 26th at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on this channel. And that will also be announced on Twitter. So again, make sure you're following us for all changes, information, etc. regarding this live show. Mm-hmm. And that's all that we have for this one today. So hopefully you guys will read Clap When You Land with us. And we will see you guys next month for that live show. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.